Hey guys, I've got another deck for you today. I've been playing a bit of Foltest actually on the ladder. Just like try it out a bit, give it a go, because Northern Realms has only really seen Henselt, being played at the moment, which is a little bit unfortunate, especially with the faction challenge coming up. Uh, Northern Realms and Monsters being the two factions that are a part of that one. I thought I'd like resurrect a bit of an old archetype that we used to play. Before the Midwinter patch, and it was a sort of Temerian deck with siege towers, and it had trebuchets back then, and it was just pretty good at getting a lot of points. You know, big tempo plays, all sorts of power plays. It had Natalis and things like that. Um, I thought I'd just kind of do something similar, see if it's still strong, and it is pretty okay at the moment. I wouldn't say it's that great. Probably not your strongest deck at the moment, but it's playable. It's getting there, and it has some good matchups. Alchemy being one of them. It's not too bad. You can definitely win the Henselt matchup as well if you play it right. But yeah, let's just jump right into the cards. So Foltest is the leader. Now the reason for this is just basically he's giving you the most value out of any of the leaders, kind of right. I mean, obviously Henselt's a lot, but requires some kind of setup. Foltest is effectively carryover and just lots of extra points on top of your already pretty chunky point plays. So yeah, we have Foltest, we have Selkirk. He's pretty good with Foltest because he gets an extra point. So that means he can be a cap of 21 point gold with removal, which is pretty damn strong. Can answer Villain Trettenmirth, which is nice. And yeah, just solid amount of points, solid bit of removal as well. Next we have Dijkstra. Now he's just a big power play. In this deck, I mean, you can brick if you don't do your thinning properly, but if you do thin properly, then Dijkstra's really powerful. I mean, he can come out at like 20 plus points easily, sometimes even more, if you can, set things up with maybe a Shani, maybe some infantry coming out, something like that. So yeah, Dijkstra's really strong in this deck. We also don't run the Silver Spy, so Dijkstra's not able to brick on that one, which is nice. Next we have Shani. Shani for the res. You usually want to be resing Stennis, but there's also Death Mold, there's also Margarita. Those are going to be the targets most of the time. You can also go with just, a Siege Tower or Reaver Scout, whatever you need, um, if you don't have a silver option there. But yeah, Shini's just solid value, with Stennis, it's a really nice, extra bit of thinning that you can finish off with at the end of the game. Like this deck will often thin to 0 cards, which is very, very nice. Yeah, next we have Vernon Roche. I'm not sure about this card as inclusion. I was using Natalis before with double cross for marching orders, and it was okay, but it bricked sometimes. So I decided to swap it out. Roche is okay. It kind of adds a little bit of power to the blue stripe scouts, right? Because you have an extra commando, which effectively is 3 points. So Roche is, if ideally here he's 21 points, right? Because you're buffing him 3 times plus the Foltest. So I mean, yeah, technically 20 points, right? Um, but yeah, he's dealing 7 damage. That's a bit of removal as well. So it's kind of like a second Selkirk in that way. Um, and it allows you to get a lot of points pretty quickly should you need them, which is nice. But yeah, next we have the Ronvid. Now, Ronvid's just an easy proactive play that you can make if you don't have any others, which you usually do because you're playing scouts, but he's also just there for a little bit of carryover, can help sometimes actually tied a game today because of the Ronvid saving it. But yeah, he can tank damage as well later in the game, which could be nice. And then of course the crewman ability is really good when we're running 5 machines. You're going to find some value there. Plus you've got Shani maybe on a machine, so we're looking at you know say 8 to 12 value maybe if you're lucky on the Ronvid. Maybe not that much because you maybe have too many crewmen in that sense, but yeah, I think it's worth playing Ronvid. There aren't too many good Northern Realms golds and silvers even, unfortunately. So yeah, we got him. We also have Margarita once again because there aren't too many great silvers. She's pretty good in some matchups. I mean, she's finding value against Skellige with the big boats, against Alchemy with the Ales, right? And having a lock can be pretty useful, maybe against Villain Trettenmirth if you don't have another way to answer it, or you can always reset one of your own guys and just get some points, so it's not too bad. Next we have Death Mode. Clear skies is always helpful when there's potential for weather, and more removal. We do have 3 actual removal pieces, which helps this deck a bit, I think. That being said, the Great Swords matchup is pretty hard anyway. You can survive other things if should you run into engines though, so it's kind of nice. But once again, there just aren't many great silvers for you to run, so death mode, why not? Next up we have Stennis. Now, he's basically 3 points plus another one of your cards, which is really nice. We can res him with Shani, as we talked about before. And yeah, he's just thinning your deck more. The one thing that can be awkward with him is you cannot play him before you've, mulligan, got all of your commandos out of your deck, right? Otherwise he's going to brick pretty hard, probably, and that's not good. Generally, you want to play him later in a round, once you've done your thinning effectively. But yeah, he's pretty strong card. Next we have Double Cross, and this is going to be pulling Ronvid. It's kind of like another Reinforcements, which we also have a copy of. But it's plus 2 points, and it's pulling Siege Tower, which can be great for staggering them so they don't get scorched, right? Because if you're putting them all between like the same number of crewmen, say 1 crewman, they all go to 13 strength. If you have the double cross, you're saving it. Or is it 11? Yeah, it's 13 with 1, 15 with 2 crewmen, right? Yeah, whatever. Numbers are hard, but yeah, double cross is nice. I was playing marching orders before, but it can just be a bit more awkward when you don't want the Reaver Scout. I don't know, marching orders is possible as well there. Reinforcement is just good. You're usually going to fetch Reaver Scout or Stennis with it, I think. Ronvid as well. And then the bronzes, we have Siege Towers for points, just pure points. Really easy 10, 11 with the Foltest, so that's nice. And then you can very, very easily get them to 13 every time, which is pretty strong actually. Battering Rams are similar, they're just easy points. Trebuchets can work as well, but they're a bit more conditional because your opponent has to have, 3 adjacent units, which doesn't happen very often. But yeah, Rams are decent points. And then we have the Scout Commando package, which is kind of the core of the deck, along with infantry, and then 1 Reaver Scout to try to guarantee the 3rd Scout, the 3rd Blue Stripes. So yeah, in round 1 you want to play all of these, and you can save Temerian infantry for later in the game as a really big power play of 21 points, or you can play them in round 1 as well, just to thin your deck out. It's kind of can work both ways. But yeah, this is the core really. You get these out at the beginning. They're quite a lot of points if you play them all in the same round. And yeah, pretty nice. And they also crewmen, which synergize with the machines. That being said, that is the deck. Those are the cards, and yeah, I'll jump into some gameplay now and show you how the deck works. Alright, so here we are. Game against Amir. Seems like I often face kind of weird decks when I queue up for the YouTube videos, but anyhow, let's jump right into this. So mulligan wise, we're always getting rid of commandos and infantry. Those are ASAP, need to get out the hand. You get rid of them first, obviously, because blacklist value. Now that's really important. Thing to point out is if you get rid of a card, it won't, you can't draw another copy of it. Obviously, not so obviously. Maybe you don't know this, but that means you should always get rid of the card you have fewer copies of. If there's 2 cards you don't want, get rid of the card you have fewer copies of in your hand first, right? Because then the chances you'll draw 1 bad card will be lower, right? So we only have 1 infantry we could draw here, so it's better to get rid of the commando here because lower chances of drawing a commando, higher chance of drawing commando than infantry, if that makes sense. It's kind of long-winded, but yeah. So finally we can get rid of the other infantry. It's usually fine to mulligan them all away. You can pull them out multiple ways with Stennis, with Dijkstra. Just playing them in a later round is also fine. Generally, round 1 you're okay for tempo. You don't really need those guys. It'll often be overkill. But yeah, we can go ahead and start with the Ronvid here. It's pretty safe opening, gives us some crewmen if we want them. And it looks like he is playing, I guess, the Emir hand buff deck that is a thing. We have Margarita, which is going to help a lot with that. But I don't know, we don't really have a lot to interact with it apart from that, so we'll see how this one goes. But yeah, as always, it's just seeing the general gameplay pattern with the deck. It's the most important thing here, right? So we'll show that off. But yeah, so you want to get your scouts out as soon as possible. You can also Foltest. Generally, we want to play the Foltest when we have a commando, when our commandos are at 5 strength even, so that way the Foltest will also pull out a commando, but you don't have to do that if you don't need, to source another one from your deck. For example, if you have all of your scouts and Roche, you don't have to play the Foltest in this situation, but I probably will just because it, it makes the leader a bit more tempo, which I guess is a safer way to do things. So yeah, we can go with the Foltest now. Really good to get him down in round 1 because it's going to obviously buff up the rest of your deck, which is pretty good news. And here come the spotters for big value. So we probably want to go with the siege tower now just to block a potential igni on the back row. Siege towers can be used to do that, which is pretty nice. And that's not ideal for him hitting the ointment on a Magni division, but things happen. We kind of don't even need to play the scout, but then again, it frees up our mulligans, right? If we don't have if we have one less commando in the deck, so we'll just get rid of the last one there. We've got crewmen now. We should be good to fight this round, and using Margarita if we want. If not, then we don't have to do that. And we can basically play the ram out here. I think is fine. I want to get those out of the hand if we can. Like around 1, our objective is thinning and getting rid of the worst cards in our hand, really, and keeping hold of any good ones that we're able to keep. That's basically what we are doing. So yeah, we can go ahead with another ram. We have reinforcements, which will probably be pulling Stennis here, although we don't want to go too overkill on that, because he could pull out the what are they called? Infantry, which would be a bit too much. So here's interesting, we do need to catch up again, so I guess Margarita is the play, just locking a spotter. Yeah, I mean, we're going to have a hard time potentially catching up here, but Shani on Margarita is going to be a pretty nice play that we have available later in the game, so we might be able to do that. And as long as we can hold on to infantry, I think we're looking okay, because that's going to be our big point play. Obviously, he can't play Manticore this round, so okay. Just a Nilfgaard Knight from him. So yeah, we can play the Roach. It will force our last card, but that's kind of okay. We don't even need to take the Stennis out of the deck here, because we'll have a chance of drawing the infantry, which we want to keep in the deck as a 20-point finisher. So we're probably just gonna actually end up taking the siege tower here, just to be a bit safe. Now, his deck won't want to play the Manticore here. I mean, he could, just to take the round, but yeah, I mean, he's going to have a hard time finding points later on if he does. So. And he's going to go for it, which is an interesting move. Not necessarily wrong. So, I mean, we could have pulled out the infantry and won that round, but then again, I'd rather hold on to the power play here. I think it's more important. Hopefully, he doesn't find a spy, and we can just go to round 3 or whatever. We're going to mulligan infantry here because we don't want to play them. We'd rather play a death mold, just get that out of the hand, right? Obviously not taking the thunder, otherwise I mean, it wouldn't matter because I've run it, but So now we're just going to hopefully, outpower him. We can be a card down even and be fine here, I think. Generally speaking, you want to win round 1, obviously, and not go into a situation like this, but here I think it's reasonable. Due to the opponent's deck and what his deck, how his deck functions, I think it's okay. But in general, yeah, I mean, this deck is pretty strong on coin flip. When you lose coin, it's a bit tougher because often you're going to get pushed and potentially lose on even, or go 2 down, which can be a problem, right? But yeah, as you see, him playing the Manticore kind of means his deck doesn't function at all, so he's going to have some pretty bad cards. So we got Shani into Selkirk, which is a pretty bonkers finisher. Obviously, we just want to take the card that's going to be the most points here. I think it's actually Siege Tower. I mean, it's very similar to Ram, but Siege Tower is probably slightly more. I mean, the double gold finisher from Dijkstra is like, crazy points, right? Well over 25, so... it shows the power level of the deck at least. Even if the opponent maybe misplayed there, that's fine. But yeah, that has been a game with this deck. Pretty nice. Yeah, it's a decent one, and it's quite a fresh way to play NR, I think, Northern Realms. So yeah, feel free to net deck away if you want to play something that's not Henselt for the faction challenge. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I will see you next time.